Hello, my sassy scholars. Now we come to the end of our journey where we're talking about our last author, Edgar Allan Poe. And Edgar Allan Poe is very popular. Folks love him. And then they come to my class and they say, PRG, this is a lot harder than I remembered it being. It's probably because you read a watered down version of Poe in high school. So we're going to watch The Simpsons because that is a fantastic rendition of The Raven. So we'll be doing that. But let's learn a little bit about Poe, his fascinating character. There's some Easter eggs in this video, so pay attention. So, Edgar Allan Poe was born, where was he born? In Boston. He was born in Boston, but he lived a good portion of his life in the Philadelphia area. So he isn't a transcendentalist. He isn't part of the Emerson, Thoreau, Fuller group. He's not hanging out with Whitman. He is his own guy, and his life was marked early by the death of his parents, and then he was adopted. And your job, if you want Easter egg points, is to tell me which of the names, Allan or Poe, is his birth last name, and which one is his adopted last name. So, fun fact. He lived from 1809 to 1849, and there is a lot of mystery surrounding how he died, and we're going to get to that. A lot of his writing deals with the macabre, and his stories, his poetry, his detective fiction. You know, he is really considered the father of American horror. And we can see his influence all sorts of places today. And his popularity, like so many others, he's more popular now than he ever was in his lifetime. So, what is the Gothic and what we call dark romanticism? So it's still romanticism, but it isn't that sort of idealistic love and light and all the stuff that Thoreau and Emerson are talking about. It's this dark romanticism. What is that? Well, the Gothic and dark romanticism, like Telltale Heart, The Fall House of Usher, the Raven, they deal with themes about madness and death and the supernatural and human psychology. So the tide of romanticism is talking about the individual and the psyche and how that operates in the natural world. Poe invented what we now know as a short story. Even, well, really Hawthorne did, but he perfected it. And so, he really has made great contributions to what we now consider the short story format. And then, of course, his poetry, The Raven, Annabel Lee, The Bells, they showcase this lyrical, this lyrical rhythm and this mastery of rhythm, while also delving into themes of love, lost, and the mysterious, right? So he uses symbolism and allegory, similar to Whitman, but his symbols are a little easier to identify. And of course, he's talking about the human psyche. He's had a tremendous impact, and in his lifetime, he actually had mixed critical reviews. But and the person who wrote his biography or his obituary wasn't a huge fan of his. So, a lot of skepticism should be held with that account of his life. So he was painted as this drunk drug addict, addicted to opium, living in the streets. But the fact is he was sober right before he died. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding his death. So in the end of his life, he disappeared. He was found delirious and in distress on the streets in Baltimore on October 3rd, 1849. He was taken to a hospital and he died on October 7th. But during his final days, he was reportedly incoherent and unable to explain how he ended up in such a dire condition. He didn't know how he got there. So this is a person who had admitted previously to alcohol and drug use, but he said he didn't willingly take anything. So there's this theory that he was drugged, and we're going to talk about a little bit about some of those theories. But somebody who had been honest about his addictions why would he at the end not be honest? That doesn't make any sense. His official cause of death, according to the attending physician, was, I'm going to read it, congestion of the brain or cerebral inflammation, which were common euphemisms used at the time to describe various cerebral conditions, including meningitis or encephalitis. So maybe that's it. So that's one theory. So there's the alcoholism and substance abuse. There's, swelling of the brain. And then there's cooping theory. I never heard of cooping theory before I took English classes. Cooping is where individuals were forced to vote multiple times in a day by changing their appearance, leading to assaults and often resulting in injury or death. So what would happen is, at election time, which is when he died, they would drug up people and then change them into different outfits and make them go vote here and there and everywhere. So there's this theory that that's what happened to him, because he was wearing clothes that he did not wear when they found him. It was like stuff you would never wear. Like if you found me in a prom gown somewhere, like cooping probably happened. Some think that he had epilepsy or brain lesions or an actual medical condition. So some, believe that. And then others believe that there's just foul play. There were, kidnappings and at the time of different kinds of people. And they think that maybe he was kidnapped and drugged and then beaten and left to die. So there is no proof of how he died. So we really don't know how he died. So I just think that's interesting. What is true, though, is that even today, we still love and revere the work of Edgar Allan Poe. And he's got a fascinating life. He was in love with this girl. It's my favorite story about him. I went down to Charleston, and he had joined the army when he was too young. And he lied about his age to get in the army. And he met this girl, and she was the daughter of, the head commander, top brass. And the top brass did not want his daughter dating Edgar Allan Poe. And she ended up getting, I don't remember what it was. Given the time, it was probably like tuberculosis or something. And she ended up dying. And so the father was so worried that Poe would sit at her grave and mourn that he had her buried in one of 6 different graves, 6 or 8. He had 8 graves, 6 graves, and one of them was the real grave, but the father had all these different graves to confuse Poe so that he wouldn't come and lament and read poetry and cry at her grave. So that's a fascinating story. But certainly Poe has endured the test of time, and we all still love Poe. So enjoy watching The Raven. It is super fun, and it is completely accurate. So I look forward to seeing you in our next, which is also our last lecture video.